I get so tired of coming across these stories and having to be reminded of just how weird. Gosh. I don't even know how to start this out. It's like how many different times, how many different ways, what needs to change in the message in order to get through to, and I hate to keep dare saying it, but our folk. What is it going to take to get through our noodle? To understand and realize that there's a proper procedure and a certain way that's considered and deemed acceptable and responsible when dealing with things relating to law enforcement. Now, I've been trying to remain as quiet about this whole thing as I possibly could, mainly because, again, as I've explained, I'm really not ready to get back in here and deal with all this drama again, on top of other things that I won't go into because I'll end up griping again, and I don't want to do that. But I have been making my opinion known about some of these instances that have been taking place across the country. And here again, just this morning, we get the newspaper delivered, and over here, nice little article, headline reads, "Protests break out over deaths nationwide." And of course, most of this is involving and surrounding that little, let me try to keep it on the up. Oh, screw it. This vicious, arrogant, intimidating thug. Alright, now that I've gotten that out, who everybody wants to make excuses for. Oh, they shouldn't have shot him. He was an unarmed black man, and that's what they do. The police have always got to do this thing against unarmed black people, and they disrespect black people. Now, the way I understand the story, let's see. This piece of slimy crap, who has the audacity to be mourned over by a bunch of shameless, dismissive... Oh my gosh. Why? I swore I was going to keep my composure, and I can't do it. I honestly can't do it. But what other... how else do you interpret this? When somebody goes into somebody's market, robs them, then gets physically violent with the store owner when he's trying to protect his business, you know? This is the man's livelihood, and you got some wannabe, arrogant, headstrong thug coming in there, or thug wannabe, since according to everybody else who knew him, he was a gentle giant. Well, guess what, Boopy? There's videotape of your gentle giant acting like a major thug. And not only that, but he had his boy right there with him. Yeah, who actually, after the fact, admitted that, yeah, the boy went and jumped over the counter, stole whatever the heck it was, a box of cigars. You know what is it? Cigars are the big commodity nowadays. So not only does he do that and hands them off to his homie right next to him, and then gets threatening with physical violence and confrontational with the store owner when he tries to stop him from walking out of the store with unpaid merchandise, which is what he was supposed to do, protect his inventory. Not only do they got the admission by his accomplice, but they got the videotape. And here's where I really blew a gasket. Because I don't know what this boy's family life was. I didn't delve that deeply into his story to find out whether or not his parents were together or not, or whether they just came together as a result of, my baby's dead, the police killed my baby, he was a gentle giant, he do not know by... Yeah, that's probably what it really came down to. A couple of people were probably at odds with each other all this time. I'm speculating because I said I don't know the details of their relationship. But I do know this much. I saw this fake, hypocritical, phony couple get up there on television being interviewed for a news program talking about how the police shouldn't have killed my baby, my sweet, innocent little baby who never hurt nobody, who never threatened nobody, he was a gentle giant. And the interviewer asked him just one crucial question. And this told the whole story. Just this one question told me everything I needed to know about how pretentious and about how phony these so-called parents and that whole damn community is. The parents, as they were sitting there together, probably for the first time in years, again, I don't know, I'm speculating, and I'm being nasty. Deliberately, okay? Because this is how much respect I have for these people at this point. But they were asked this very simple question. Mr. and Mrs. Mom and Dad of this, this innocent young man who was killed by the police when he was unarmed and wasn't bothering nobody. There's a videotape showing what this boy was up to prior to his involvement with this incident with the police. Did you see the video? And their answer was, hell yeah, we saw the video. I mean, if somebody's going to kill our baby and accuse him of doing something, we want to make sure that's the first thing that we see to make sure that we get a full sense of, and that we're not just hearing stuff from hearsay. No, that ain't what they said. They said, no, we ain't seen the video. Now, what's that supposed to tell me? So now I'm supposed to be joining in with the whole big crowd there, protesting the mean-spirited police for shooting an unarmed black man over an incident which even the people who are screaming their innocence the loudest never even bothered to watch the video, which puts forth them oh God. So this is what I tried to explain to several people. In fact, I got into an argument with a friend of mine over here where and like I said, the emotionalism is easy to get wrapped up in. But that's why I'm not about emotionalism unless I'm going on a rant in contradiction to everybody else's emotionalism. So that's when I show my emotions, to call out somebody else's emotionalism. But I actually almost got into a bitter verbal argument over the fact that this situation with this thug, or this thug wannabe, whatever the hell he was, whatever he was before he got stopped in his tracks, thank God. Well, okay, let me not say that, because that's really showing my nasty side right now, because nobody knows the future of this boy. I have to swallow that one, okay? Because there's no way of me or anybody knowing that he would have continued in a life like that had he not been killed. So that's a bad call on my part. But when he got taken down for acting a nigger. Let's just be straight up about it, all right? Now see, had he not been acting that way, then I would have never gotten to this argument with my friend, who pointedly asked me when she saw that I wasn't going to fall in line with this whole thing about the abusive police, which I know that abusive police exist out there, and I know that they especially have a particular way of having to either deal with us or they've already got some preconceived ideas as to how to interact with the black community. Let's put it that way. So I'm not ignorant to that fact. But I'm saying there are ways to go about it to not become a victim to that. And so when I was asked, after I kept trying to make my points, saying about how in situations like this, if someone's going to be a cancer and a stain on your community, you don't defend it, you cut it off. That's the way you do with cancer. And I even took it way back to saying that, since we live in this 21st century liberal feel-goodism, touchy-feely whatever that we live in nowadays, that the very people who are screaming and hollering and talking about how, it's such a tragedy, but God's going to judge them, and we go in and we go to church and we go pray for the souls of the sinners, and then God's going to be his ass, and we go praise the Lord, and God's going to look out for us, and God and Jesus and righteousness and God and Jesus. Well, for all these damn people who are screaming and hollering, talking about God and Jesus and righteous judgment and all this other horse shit as a result, excuse my language, as a result of what took place in Missouri, those same Bible-thumping hallelujah types are the same ones who ignore the fact that had this been the time when the biblical writings were actually being used to some contemporary effect, as they say back in the day, you wouldn't be hearing none of this, oh, my poor innocent baby. They would have a gathering of elders. They would try the case. And if they would even so much as find that the person that was involved was a shame, not only to his community, but to his mother and his father, then that person would be stoned to death. And you know who would be throwing the first stones? That's right, the mother and the father. How far we've come when we just coddle and excuse all sorts of wrongdoing and all sorts of the things that just put a stain and an indelible mark on our community. And we just accept it. And we just excuse it. And we defend it. So for all their hallelujah, high glory, and love God and Jesus and all this other stuff, they forgot that Bible principle, didn't they? That when you dishonor your mother and your father, and you shame them, and you become a mark of shame to your family picks up the first rock and they stone you. And I even have to tell my own mother, as much as she constantly tries to love me up and everything, she thinks I'm the purest thing since fresh fallen snow. And I'm saying, don't ever get that wrapped up in me. Because should the time ever come that I actually do something where I need to answer for my actions, the last thing I need for you to do is start coming up and start making my case for me. I'm like, no, first get the facts. Then when you find out that, okay, an error has been made and you want to defend my innocence, fine, I'll be right there with you. But if it should turn out that I did something that is borderline evil or that is criminal, you do not defend that. You sever those ties. I don't care if I'm the last link into continuing this family lineage. Doesn't matter. It's irrelevant. Better to have no offspring generations down the line than to defend something and to try to keep it around that's going to be a constant shame and dishonor to your family. Now I know I'm focusing primarily on this particular issue, but of course this is the one that really pretty much started off, but it's focusing on others also, especially the one talking about that incident in New York City where, again, another arrogant, belligerent Negro decides to get all confrontational with the police and ends up getting his ass in a chokehold, which, granted, police know that you don't put anybody in a chokehold, and you especially don't put them in a chokehold and then have them lying there, and you notice that they're not breathing or they're not moving, and you don't check them out and you don't try to resuscitate them. So if anybody's going to answer for something, that's something somebody's definitely going to have to answer for. But for what led to that situation in the first place, the rules of the road had been laid out. I've pretty much said the same things. Other people who actually cared, even people who actually worked in law enforcement, like you got to be kidding me, / you heard me first time. I mean, people who actually care, people who have dealt with the police or people who work within the police system or who know the law enforcement thing. And even Chris Stinking Rock kept trying to tell you there's a proper way to deal with the police. Regardless of however they interact with you for whatever reason, there's certain guidelines that you, especially as a black person, and especially as a black male, need to follow in order to make sure, as Chris Rock says, you don't get your ass kicked by the police. And I was in New York City just this past week, just up there for a little bit of a mini vacation and to pay a little visit to somebody. And before I left, I got into a little bit of a conversation about how, and I don't even know how this particular thing came up, how it became part of the conversation, but I mentioned that with all this hoopla going on about police brutality and mistreatment by the police and everything, and I told my own story, where I've stated I have had dealings with the police, both in situations where I had things that I had to answer for, and other areas where I just had like general interactions with whatever. But even in those areas where it's like, okay, we need to stop you about something. We need to, ask you, what are you doing here? Why did you do that? Can we see some identification? What's your name? What did you do? Blah, blah, blah. What do you do? I have had those interactions. I've had more than I care to have. Granted, they were never for anything serious. Well, one time somebody tried to mark it up as something serious, and due to their mishandling of it, thing got kicked out of court, as it should have been. But at least I figure, well, okay, even though I dodged that bullet, technically speaking, the reason that I got cited in the first place was clearly something that I was doing that was not in line with the law at that time and at that place. I didn't know anything about it, and of course, you get totally irritated when, this is the one thing, if I really hate police for anything, it's this one thing. When you try to explain that your lack of knowledge about something, or you're not aware that something was codified in law, then they throw that line, well, ignorance of the law is no excuse. Well, excuse me, I was going to use the B word. But yeah, in this case, it would have applied. But who in the world has time to sit down and go through every doggone tenet of, well, this is the law of your community. This is all your municipal laws, and okay, here are all your state laws, and oh, here are all your federal laws. Nobody has that kind of time. The best thing we can do is just use common sense and our best discretion. And if we're wrong, just tell us that we're wrong. Don't throw that ignorance of the law bull crap in our face, because that's when we lose respect for you. So, anywho, that one situation, yeah, I got cited, and yeah, I had to appear before court. And no, nothing came as a result of it, because due to her ignorance of the law, that my case ended up getting kicked out of court. So, but anyway, that was still a dealing that I had to do with the police, where they wanted to confront me about something that I had done improperly. And as I explained to my friend in New York, each and every time I've ever had an experience like that, other than that one time that I just mentioned, I have never, ever, ever had a problem with the police. In fact, anytime that they even bothered to do anything to where they were considering giving me a citation or anything, I would always end up being let go, saying, hey, okay, I just want you to understand that what you did was improper. The proper way to do it is such and such, so-and-so, X, Y, and Z, and just keep that in mind. Go on about your business. Have yourself a nice day. So, gee, how's that work out so well for me? Is it because my light skin? No. It's because I treat the police with the respect that they're due. See, I recognize that their job is a difficult job. And especially, one of the things that makes their job so stressful is that they're always on edge, because they have no idea who they're going to be dealing with at any given time. Their lives are always in perpetual danger just because of the uniform that they wear. So recognizing that and going into that and understanding and recognizing that my tax dollars are paying their salary for a reason, and that reason is to keep us safe from harm. Whether from harm from our own ignorance or from harm from our fellow man who tries to do us dirty, who tries to do some kind of evil toward us. But that's their job. That's what I pay them for. They're my servants. And in recognition of that, I treat them with the respect they're due as my employee. So what too many of our folk get wrapped up into is they see the police as an adversary. Well, okay, granted, in some cases, depending on how you're being confronted and under what circumstances, yes, sometimes the police can be an adversary. But adversary does not necessarily mean bad guy. But what our folk typically do all too often is we treat police as the bad guy. We treat them as the enemy. And when we do that and we get arrogant and we get belligerent, well, guess what? They're going to start acting like the bad guy and the evil monster that we portray them to be. Because we're stoking the fires that are already, So my whole viewpoint, my whole philosophy is like this. Just as my friend here was telling me when I got into that little bit of an argument, and she asked me, this time she was speaking specifically about the boy who got shot in Missouri. Could have been about the chokehold in New York City for selling cigarettes. How stupid to lose your life over being accused of selling untaxed cigarettes. I'll get back to that later. But when I was asked about this boy that got shot unarmed, and of course everybody's got to stress he was unarmed. Well, first of all, we don't know. Because I was talking to a family member and I said, look, the thing that would have settled this whole argument would have been whatever confrontation he had with this police officer, it would have been totally a non-issue had there been a dash cam on that police vehicle. Had that cruiser had a dash cam, we wouldn't be hearing all this stuff. But as it stands, no dash cam, it's all he said. So all we got to do is go on somebody's word now and try to determine whose word has the greater authority. But see, the more evidence that you have working to your benefit, that's what's going to get your ass out of the fire. But since we didn't have that, all we have is hearsay. So that's why I said don't ask my opinion on nothing until I get either all the facts or at least enough facts to where I can see the picture forming. And so as I was asked, and the caveat was based upon what I know. That's the thing she asked me. Based upon what I know about the case, did I believe that this boy should have gotten shot? And of course, the easy and immediate answer was, based upon what I know, no, he should not have gotten shot. However, we don't know what we don't know. You see what I'm getting at? Based upon what we know, you get reactions like you get with these communities all up in arms talking about how the police shot an unarmed black man. But what about the stuff that we don't yet know? That could be telling the complete whole story, and it could tell a radical 180-degree story from actually what we're led to believe initially right now based upon what we do know at this moment. So as more evidence comes in, it could very well be that, oops, I done stepped on my wee-wee again because I went and I jumped the gun and I yelled racism when there was no racism, or police brutality when there was no police brutality. Or, as I said, we don't know, but I've got a pretty good idea. Based upon the videotape of this thug robbing this man's business and trying to rob him from his livelihood. And based on the admission of his homie there that he had with him. So I got a pretty good idea what his confrontation was like with the police officer who killed him. I have no evidence of that whatsoever, but let's just say the writing's on the wall. So, again, an attempt to get me to look at something emotionally, I don't do that. I base all my arguments and all my perspectives, all my points of view on whatever facts I have at hand. And if I don't feel that those facts are sufficient enough, I may make a preliminary judgment, again, based on the available facts. But at the same time, I'm saying, since we don't know all the facts, I'm withholding final judgment. So based on just those facts alone, number one, all I know is this boy got shot, and he got shot as a result of having done dirty, or at least being confronted about having done something dirty. The man who got put in a chokehold in New York City for supposedly, allegedly selling untaxed cigarettes. Was he selling untaxed cigarettes? I don't know, and I don't care. He says he wasn't. The people around him says he wasn't. The police and the shop owners said he was. Hearsay, 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 hearsay. But I do know this much, that when the police said, we're going to place you under arrest, you have the right to remain silent, right then and there, he should have, excuse my language, he should have shut the fuck up, put his hands behind his back, let himself get set into the back of the police cruiser, get taken down to the station, called his damn lawyer, professed his innocence, and said, we're going to sue the city of New York for false arrest. Boom! And he would have still been alive, whether he won the case or not. Whether he could have proved that he was falsely arrested or not, at the end of the day, that nigga would still be alive. But no, he had to get all bravado and thump his chest like a big intimidating gorilla and everything. Like, I'm big and bad and y'all police and y'all hate black people. Why y'all hating on me? And fuck the police. Boom! Now your ass is dead. For what? Y'all want me to show sympathy for these idiots and these morons and these buffoons? Fuck you! I'm tired of seeing my people go down like this because of our own damn arrogance and belligerence. When the hell are we going to wake up and start learning? I know we don't have the best reputation with the police anywhere in this country. I know that. Nobody needs to convince me of that. A blind man can see that we have a difficult time with the police. However, how much of that difficulty comes from the fact that we make it difficult for us? When all we need to do is just say, yes sir, nod our heads, shut our fucking mouths, go on, and at the end of the day, just call up a lawyer and say, offer me your best defense. Whether we're guilty or not, that's what the legal system's set up there for. That's why they tell you, you have a right to an attorney. Because by law, you're supposed to have legal representation to give you the best defense. Not to proclaim your innocence, but to give you the best defense possible. So that even if you are found guilty, you might work out some kind of an arrangement to where maybe you are going to face a 20-year sentence. Maybe we'll get you knocked down to 5 years plus probation and maybe early release for good behavior. You see how that works? It's so. But no, I don't know what it is about the people in our community, but we think it's a better trade-off to get our asses shot dead or choked to death than to just deal with a little bit of inconvenience and a little bit of an embarrassment and just go through the system and maybe even be wronged. What's wrong with being wronged in an official capacity like that? Because as it was explained, even if you're the victim of a false arrest, a couple of things can happen. As was in my case, I wasn't arrested per se, but I was given a summons to appear in court. And as a result of that, my case got dropped. Gee, the legal system worked. But even if it were the case where I did get arrested, and I'm like, oh, you're going to arrest me for something and then you're going to charge me for something which, technically speaking, you're having me arrested on a false charge. Your ass is in trouble. And that officer would have at least gotten reprimanded. But if it were something serious enough, it's like, hey, pass a few ducats this way, for inconveniencing my time and for putting me through this embarrassing routine and rigmarole and having me being treated like a common criminal or something. It's like, that's how you work the system. But no, we don't want to work the system. We think we're so much bigger and badder and better than that. And at the end, we end up paying with our lives. And I'm supposed to protest with the rest of y'all. Screw you. I'm about living, and I'm about peace. I'm about seeing things done the right way and being treated with respect. And that usually starts with giving respect first. So that's the issue. I'm not crying over all these dead Negroes out here who decide they want to get arrogant and belligerent. Okay, in one of these cases they're talking about, they suspect that the boy was mentally ill. I can grant you that that's fine. I understand that sometimes it's difficult to deal with people who are later found out to be mentally ill. Now, I'm not saying that excuses rough treatment of them by any means. But I'm saying that when a situation happens where someone gets mishandled and it turns out that they are a case of mental illness, then yeah, you can ask for my sympathy somewhat and say, well, hey, was there a different way that the police could have handled it? In fact, in all these situations, there could have been different ways that the police could have handled the situations. But when you get arrogant and belligerent with them and confrontational with them, you really leave them very little choice. Now, keep in mind, in case anybody thinks I'm just doing this to smooch up and thinking that, I just want to ignore the plight of African Americans and how I'm thinking unrealistically about how the role of our police and all this other police stuff, I'm going to tell y'all something that I don't think I've ever told anybody in these online forums as of yet. I've told only a select handful of people what I'm about to share with you right now. But I'm just going to come right out and I'm going to share it. At one time, were it not for the fact that I had something that essentially disqualified me, and it was nothing bad, it was nothing about my history or anything, just something that didn't work with their policy as far as recruitment goes. But I was actually going to apply when I was living in the city of Lawrence, Kansas. I was actually going to actively apply for the position of a police officer. That's right. It would have been Officer General Backlash or General Officer or whatever the heck it was. That would have been me at one time in my life. But as the fates would have it, that did not prove to be an option, so I couldn't pursue that, at least not at that time and in that place. Afterwards, I chose not to follow suit with that, so when I started moving across the country and living in different areas, I just decided it wasn't anything I wanted to pursue anymore. And I sought to just live my life doing other sorts of things, and essentially those types of things which would afford me the freedom and the leeway and the latitude and the ability to travel and all that other good stuff that I'd like to have for myself, and there are only certain types of jobs that would really allow me that kind of latitude, and being committed to the job of a police officer would not have been one of them. But yeah, that was part of my plan at one time. So now you kind of understand maybe why I have maybe a little bit more respect for the title of police officer than what's being spread out there today. Because I know what they go through, I know what it's about, and I know how hard of a job that it is, and they deserve our appreciation and our respect. These people put their lives on the line every single day just to make sure you and I are safe from crap like this that we heard about in Misery. So, don't ask me to shed a tear for none of these freaks. As I said, when you find somebody who truly is an innocent victim of police brutality or somebody not following proper procedure or whatever the case is, all right, fine, I'll shed a tear right there with you. But don't get me on some phony BS, hypocritical, my crap don't stink garbage BS like this. Because I'm the last person who's going to defend crap like this. As I said, I don't care who's involved, I only stand on the side of right. And whoever's right is the side that I stand on. Now, in this particular case, I'm not necessarily saying that the police were right. But I am saying that these hoodlums and thugs and arrogant chest thumpers who wanted to act all belligerent, I am saying that they were wrong. And I think from this moment on, anytime another one of these stories comes up, I don't think I have to say anything else about it. I think I've said all that I possibly can say. Then this will just cover not just past, present, but you can just replay this the next time one of these situations comes up and the same nationwide outcry comes as a result of it. Just pull this back up, because I guarantee you my words that I'm speaking today are going to be relevant for when it happens the next time, and the next time, and the next time, and the next time, and the next time. Backlash Kid Brother is not going to bend over backwards for this kind of nonsense. If there's a cancer in our society, treat it like any surgical procedure would deal with a medical cancer. You cut the SOB out and you destroy it in the fire so that the whole rest of the organism can live healthy and safe and secure. And that's my word on it, and that's my final word on it. End of line.